Good day everyone. We are Group 10 of GED110 A10 and we are going to present invasive species, and these are our members: Nilo Pille, John Theodore Ruivivar, Eshi Jarmilla, and Paul Ivan Francisco. Topic outline: Introduction to invasive species, examples of invasive species, and the effects of invasive species. Introduction to invasive species. What is invasive species? An invasive species is an organism that is not native to an ecosystem and thus has no natural predators in that environment. This lack of predators often causes some wicked problems in the place it colonizes. With no predators, these invaders can outcompete local fauna and flora and then disrupt the balance of the ecosystem. A species is considered invasive only if it causes harm to ecosystem or native species by outcompeting them for resources and altering ecosystem processes. This could include displacing or reducing native species populations, altering nutrient cycling, or changing the physical structure of habitats. It is not native to the area where it is found. It could be introduced to the area intentionally or unintentionally. For a species to be classified as invasive, it must meet both of these criteria. A non-native species that does not cause any significant ecological impact is not considered invasive, and a native species that causes harm to an ecosystem will not be considered invasive as it is not exotic.
Examples of invasive species. The first one is American mink, or Neobison bison in their species name. Mink are an invasive non-native species originally brought to fur farms from North America. This small mammal affects numerous protected species of amphibians, fish, and mammals such as the European mink, which has been driven to the edge of extinction. Next is the kudzu or Puraria montana. Kudzu was introduced to the United States in 1876. At an exposition in Philadelphia, it can grow up to a foot a day, allowing it to easily outcompete and kill other plants. Kudzu is a highly aggressive invasive plant that is extremely difficult to control once established. Kudzu is so aggressive it covers and smothers all other plants in its path and eliminates native species. Next is the cane toad, or Renella marina, formerly Bupum marinus, are an invasive species. Cane toads became pests after being introduced into Australia to control destructive beetles in Queensland's sugarcane crops. Cane toads are capable of poisoning predators that try to eat them, and they continue to spread across Australia. The cane toad also prey on and outcompetes native amphibians and reptiles for food and breeding sites, and also cause the decline of local predators such as snakes and lizards. Cane toads have no natural enemies, and their spread could have a devastating impact on our native animal species and ecosystems. Next is the hagunoi or Chromalina odorata in their species name. It is a globally invasive species that is regarded as the worst alien invasive plant species in the subtropical regions of South Africa, and has been nominated as one of the 100 of the world's worst invaders. Hagonoy is now a prevalent weed in the Philippines. The plant was introduced in the southern Philippines in the 1960s. It also easily spreads in agricultural land, reducing space for edible plants consumed by livestock. Hagonoy itself is poisonous to livestock due to its allelopathic properties.
The effects of invasive species. How do invasive species affect us, and what can we do to curb their spread? Specific effects on the environment include the disruption of natural balance of ecosystems by displacing and outcompeting native species, leading to a loss of biodiversity, the changing of the way resources and energy are used within an ecosystem, altering its natural processes, altering the physical structure of habitats, making it difficult for native species to survive and thrive. They are even capable of causing extinctions of native flora and fauna. Specific effects to us humans include causing significant economic losses by damaging crops and other industries. They also have negative impacts on human health by spreading diseases or by competing with species that are important for human food or medicine. Lastly, they even damage infrastructure such as clogging water systems or causing direct damage to buildings. Here are preventive measures against the spread of invasive species. We have to be informed and learn about the invasive species that are present in our areas and learn what we can do to help prevent their spread. Before leaving a new area, we ought to clear our gear such as boots, clothes, and vehicles to remove any seeds, mud, or other organisms that may be attached to them. When disposing unwanted pets, we must do it responsibly and not release them into the wild. We can also share our knowledge about invasive species to our friends and family and to encourage them to take the steps needed to prevent their spread. Lastly, we could even join local groups or organizations working on invasive species issues and volunteer to help them in their efforts.
Now, we have tackled the three topics on our outline, which is to give an introduction on what invasive species are, to give some examples of both of them, local and global, as well as their effects on a wider scale. To give you a summary of the discussion, we said that invasive species can have a significant impact on both ecosystems and humans, and it is essential to be aware of the present issue and to address it. Because of this, extinctions of plants and animals, reducing biodiversity, competing with native organisms for limited resources, and altering habitats can be seen in our environment. Early detection and rapid responses are crucial in preventing the spread and impact of invasive species. For future generations of upcoming innovation, this may be addressed by researching and producing genetically modified organisms or physically fortifying areas that are prone to infestations of these invasive organisms. We can say that by this, preventing the introduction and spread of invasive species is key to protecting native ecosystems and human interests. In this presentation, we have learned what invasive species are and how they are a problem, whether they may be plants or animals, the effects on the environment as to how they can disrupt, alter, and change systems, as well as direct and indirect effects on humans have been talked about. By this, we end our discussion and we thank you for listening.